I don't know what I can say on TikTok without a flag, but
The word is
overly sex.
schmexualized. Just say with an
Yes, over
SM, schmexualized.
sexualized as when she was younger. Now you also have to look at the fact that with this kind of behavior, because a lot of people on the left also argue with me anyway that they try to change the wording and say it's normal for parents to bathe with their children. You see, taking a bath and taking a shower are two different things. And when you're taking a bath when you're with your child, your child is like 1, 2, 3, 4 years old. That's normal. When you're taking a shower with your child is 7, 8, 9, 10 years old. And Ashley herself said probably inappropriate, which means that she was in that age bracket. Nobody showers with their child at that age. It
Well,
is
not
very,
nobody, but go ahead.
but it's a very disturbing thing. Now that leads up to the whole, I hate bringing it up because I agree he's right now. I mean, he has nothing to do with what's going on with Joe right now, but it also it leads to the fact of there is some serious mental issues in this family. I mean, and that leads up to Hunter Biden. I mean, Hunter Biden slept with his unalive brother's wife.
Well, let's keep focused on the diary, right?
But I'm just
Hey,
saying this.
Maggie, what's the purpose in bringing
The
focus to
purpose
the
is
diary?
trying to get people to see Joe Biden is not the person everybody perceives him to be.
So, what do you think the diary shows Joe Biden to be?
That Joe Biden screwed up his children
Okay,
badly.
how did this show that Joe Biden screwed up his children? And are you going to be referring to any pages other than this key one?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Sure, there was a PDF of about 100 pages that were released, right? When I went through it, which I did go through it, I didn't see really anything that was of interest that people who are pro-Trump would really care about other than this page. But I want to ask you, is there something other than this page that you care about that I need to be informed about?
It's just the fact that this page show. I mean, you gotta look at the bigger picture, okay?
So this is the focus though, this one
Yes,
page. So
yes.
what is this one page telling people? What
That
is it you think this shows?
Joe Biden wasn't a good father because for his daughter to be in those situations, because I guess she was put in certain sexual situations with other people that had nothing to do with her, but people
What does that mean? She was put in sexual
that people knew
situations.
who her father was. Okay,
Wait. You just said something that he put her in schmexual situations at a young age.
no. What I mean is, what's the best way to put it?
I mean, I'm just so this is how old is Ashley Biden?
Right now,
Yeah,
I think she's 41.
she's 43. How old was she when she wrote this entry?
This was in 2021, I believe.
It was 2019. So she was around about the age of 38, 39 when she wrote this
Right.
entry. Around about the age of 38, I think is probably fair, right? So this is a woman who's writing in her diary a very intimate thing. I think we can all agree that diaries are very intimate, right?
Right. She
And
expected nobody else to read it.
yeah, and you are weaponizing this diary and really sort of making a mockery of her and her private thoughts. And so I'm just trying to understand, you must have had a very compelling reason to do that, right?
No, it's
Because
not. It's not.
if someone's
I'm not
still
weaponizing her.
sorry, I haven't interrupted you. I don't want to interrupt. I'm known as being really polite when I have guests and stuff. I'd really appreciate if we can both talk. How can I refer to you? What name do you want me to refer to you as? Because Ashley Biden's diary just won't work. Just give me a name.
Uh,
Any name, I don't care.
I live in Chicago, so just say Chicago.
Uh, I'll call you Bear instead. All right.
Okay.
So, Bear, tell me this. If I got a copy of your diary with all your intimate thoughts, and I created a user account where I promoted and talked about your diary and I focused on this one specific thing, right? You would hope that I would have a very compelling reason to do so because that's a huge invasion of privacy, right? Just because some other asshole is the one who stole it, just because some other asshole is the one who posted it, your reason for exploiting it, I assume you've got a very compelling reason.
No, it's to basically show the character of Joe Biden, because for everybody's talking about the character of Trump, and they constantly attack his character. And
Yeah, because he's got very poor character.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, because he's got very poor character.
Yes, but Joe Biden is not this great person that the left makes him out to be.
He's far greater than Trump, though,
And how so?
on pretty much every metric minus wealth.
No, then I'm how so though?
Sure. You've got, on the one hand, a man who runs away from his military duty, and on the other hand, a man who literally lost his son for being able to fight that cause. You've got one man who tries to take away money from veterans. Sure, go ahead.
Okay. First and foremost, Joe Biden used that ran away from the military as well.
Uh-huh.
This is something a lot of people choose to ignore, because this is a man that played 3 or 4 sports in high school, but somehow his asthma wouldn't allow him to get into the military.
Yeah, you understand he still has asthma today, right?
I'm sorry?
You understand he still has asthma, unlike
But
Trump's
that was the
bone spurs,
reason
right?
he gave to the Air Force, or whatever branch it might have been, to not get into the into service, even though he was doing 3 or 4 sports in high school.
Correct. You understand why there's a difference. Do you understand it, or do you want me to explain it to you?
Go ahead.
Sure. When you're near your home and when you're in a comfortable area, you've got ready access to your medication when you need it, right? When you're in a military setting, you are not going to be able to turn around and say, can I get my inhaler? Because not everyone's going to have a spare inhaler for you. So people who've got chronic medical issues that require constant supply of medication are usually exempted from military service because of the logistical issues of having to be able to give them medication. That's a fair issue. That's an understandable issue. He has always had asthma. He still uses inhalers to this day. He doesn't get them photographed, but he still uses. That was in his medical report from 4 years ago.
Okay, now, based on what you said, because to be honest, there's nothing out there that says he never had it. So, is there proof that Donald Trump didn't have bone spurs?
No. Do you know what bone spurs are?
It's obvious.
They are. So like you're trying to claim you've sort of shifted goalposts, because what you
I didn't shift the goalpost, because is there again?
Hear me out. You tried to shift it by saying that Biden made a bullshit reason based upon asthma when he was still able to play sports, and I explained to you, no, there's actually a very good medical reason why they don't let people who have asthma be in the military. So now you seem to be conceding, okay, because it's never been disproven that he has it, I'll accept that Biden had a valid reason for not going into the military, right? It seems to be you're accepting that. So what you're now trying to say is that Trump had a valid reason, because earlier you were trying to say both men are cowards, because both men ducked what their civic and patriotic duty was.
First of all, I didn't call either one of them cowards. But
You
secondly,
implied it.
Sorry, I'm smoking. That's why it seems like I'm taking a breath. Again, is like I stated, is there proof that that Trump didn't have bone spurs?
I mean, there's nothing in his medical reports that when he disclosed those medical reports to the public during his presidency that mentioned anything about bone spurs. That could be one thing. Whereas Biden's asthma is mentioned. Remember, we had Trump have his doctor put out a notice, basically a letter stating that he's in perfect medical health with 0 issues. That would also include no bone spurs, right?
Well, you also can have surgery to remove the bone spurs.
He's never claimed to have had surgery, so why would you?
But he's never
refer
claimed
his
he never has.
No, but there's no record of him ever having bone surgery. So you asked me, there's medical records showing that he himself has admitted, based upon his own medical records provided while he was in the presidency, he doesn't have bone spurs.
Sorry, I'm listening to you, but I'm reading comments as well.
Oh, I don't really normally get people in here, so I don't know if they're haters, if they're people
Oh no, a lot of people in here,
leaving.
a lot of people in your comments are saying Trump's a rapist. But go ahead,
Oh, he's
say what
definitely
else.
a rapist.
I'm sorry.
He's definitely a rapist
And how is that?
because he was found liable for grape, and he's had more than a couple dozen accusations,
Okay, now here's the thing.
including from his own wife.
Okay, now here's the thing. At what point in that E. Jean Carroll's case
Well,
could?
hang on. I'll jump to E. Jean Carroll, but we've jumped from Ashley
Okay,
Biden's
go ahead.
diary
Go
to
ahead. Go
bone
ahead.
spurts, right?
Go ahead.
So let's go back to Ashley Biden's diary. As I said to you, Bear, if I had your diary and I then shared it publicly, and your next door neighbor then made a TikTok profile account mocking the intimate information in that diary, you would admit that that's hurtful and that's deplorable, that's immoral of you, unless you have a really strong reason, right? You would admit that, I assume.
Yes.
So your compelling reason is you believe that this diary shows that Joe Biden is of poor moral character or that he's a failure as a parent. Which is it?
Both.
Okay, so where's the poor moral character?
First of all, I mean, most people will not shower with their children. That is just very disturbing. I mean,
Hang on, just because most people wouldn't do it, where's the poor moral character? So there's people who are very different. So there's people who sleep in the same bed as their parents until their early teens due to the fact that they don't have enough money. There's people who kiss their parents on the lips, which to me is gross, but is actually something that a lot of people do that they think is totally fine. So there's a lot of part of what you're talking about is really about personal boundaries and personal comfort. I personally wouldn't want to shower with my daughter. That's my personal preference. If I heard of a father who did do that, I wouldn't automatically think they're a Petritio. I would think that they just have very different boundaries. You know, there's also parents who walk around naked around their kids because they don't think of themselves as sexual around their children.
And that's very disturbing. But with the examples you gave, like sleeping in bed with their parents, they're sleeping in bed with both their parents, they're doing it with their clothes on. There's a huge difference between sleeping with your parents with their clothes on and being completely nude in the shower with your father or mother.
You don't know who was completely nude. You don't even know if the two of them were showering at the same time. It says showers with
He
my
said
dad.
showered with her father, probably inappropriate. She is confirming.
Yes, that doesn't say that they were naked
See,
in the shower at the same time.
this is where the problem lies, because Biden supporters do not want to accept that she is literally confirming that she showered with her daughter, and she herself wrote to herself because she didn't think anybody else was going to read it, that it was inappropriate.
No, wrong. So showers with my dad, right? It didn't say showered with my dad, right? It says showers with my dad, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that doesn't mean they necessarily. But by the way, I'm not going to fight you on it. I can concede that they likely wore together in the same shower, but that's not what that says. You could infer it to mean that, but that's not what it conclusively says. It doesn't say my dad and I were naked together in a shower by ourselves. That's not what it's saying.
Come on, you're trying to avoid what the obvious thing is here. I mean, it's
No. Well,
yes.
hang on. If it was
Okay,
so obvious, why would
hold on.
she
I'm going to
say?
give you an example.
Sure.
Give you an example. Okay, you're trying to say just because she's not saying they were naked in the shower together, that it doesn't mean that they were naked in the shower together. Okay,
Correct.
Based on that logic, I'm using this logic as an example. There is nobody, and I mean nobody, even the employees at the store that Trump supposedly raped E. Jean Carroll.
Well, hang on. Let's talk.
Hold
about
on. There is literally
Hang on. Stop. E. Jean Carroll has nothing to do with the interpretation.
No. I'm giving you an example.
Hang on. No.
You don't want to hear the example because it hurts your argument.
No, because it's irrelevant to my argument.
Yes, it is relevant
What
based
has
on
E. Jean
based on the
Carroll
example.
got to do with this?
Because I'm using it as an
No,
example.
what you're
based
trying
on,
to say is
hold
you're
on,
trying to show how liberals may be inconsistent.
Hold on.
I'm not liberals.
Well,
Okay, I'll let you make your point, but this is the one time I'll let you make an irrelevant point. Once I show you why it's irrelevant, I don't
it,
want this to happen again. Go ahead.
it is irrelevant because there is not one store employee that could even put Donald Trump in the building.
What's your point?
My point is, he was somehow found liable, even though nobody could even put him in the building with her. So
Okay, how does that relate to this?
you say that he is definitely guilty of rape for her, but you say because Ashley Biden didn't write in her diary that they were naked together, it doesn't mean that they were naked together.
Correct.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I don't see what you're saying, because in this case, unlike E. Jean Carroll, where you have a victim who came forward and claimed to have been victimized, in this case, you have your purported victim who's stepping forward and saying, whoa, 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 that's not how I meant it. My dad didn't do anything, right? So in one case, we have a victim. In the other case, we have someone who you're calling a victim who doesn't even consider themselves a victim. Do you now understand why the point you made is completely irrelevant?
No, it's not irrelevant.
So how is it relevant?
Because she, first of all,
You're asking me to believe E. Jean Carroll, right? You're saying if I am going to believe E. Jean Carroll, I have to believe Ashley Biden, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, but Ashley Biden's telling me that's not what I meant by that at all. So would you like me to believe Ashley Biden, or would you like me to believe your interpretation of what Ashley Biden wrote?
Ashley Biden literally wrote probably inappropriate, which means hold on.
And I just told you there's 5 different ways I could read what that says.
She herself.
Hang on, stop. I could read that 5 different ways. I could read that meant the 2 of them were showering together. I could read that to mean that the father was the one who would come in while she was showering. I could read it to be that he would shower and she would come in to do her makeup, maybe as a teenager, even while he was showering. I could read it any one of those ways. And the fact that she says probably not appropriate means it's not objectively inappropriate, which means it's more likely to be one of the latter cases than the first case.
No, because she's writing it to herself. She's writing it to herself, which means
so she would be able to be honest, wouldn't she?
No, she's writing it to herself, which means she's telling herself. She's telling herself it wasn't appropriate.
No, she didn't say it's not appropriate. She said probably not appropriate.
Right, and she's telling herself that. She's not telling anybody.
Hang on, stop. She's not talking to anyone but herself. Yes or no?
Right, that's what I just said.
Does she have to use careful language with herself? Yes or no?
No.
Of course not. She can be as bluntly honest as she wants, correct?
Yes.
So why would she use the word probably?
Because that is what she thought to herself.
Meaning she didn't even know if it was inappropriate, correct?
If you're saying probably, it's more likely you know it wasn't appropriate than not.
I'll ask the question again. You will admit that the fact that she says probably means that she's not even sure if it was inappropriate. She just thinks it could be inappropriate.
You said you don't want me to bring this up, but again, you were gonna let me do it one time. But that's basically what a civil case is. You know that, right?
Yeah, but again, in a civil case, the plaintiff.
It doesn't matter. A civil case is probably.
Hang on. In a civil case, you have a plaintiff who's making a claim. Ashley Biden is saying you, Bear, are wrong. So why should I believe? You're asking me to believe Ashley Biden, correct? Ashley Biden's telling me you're wrong, that you're interpreting her words wrong. Why should I not believe her?
Do you really think that Ashley Biden is going to say in public with her father as president or running as president, either or? You really think Ashley Biden is going to speak bad of her father?
Well, I would think she would speak bad.
Yes or no?
Sure. I'll answer the question. If she believes her father is a bad man, yes, I would expect her to say bad things about him.
Not if she has been quiet about it this whole time and she doesn't want her father destroyed.
I mean, you're inferring that would be what she would do. Another alternative could be that she thinks that her father doesn't deserve the presidency because of what he did to her. Oh. And the bigger point I would make is that in a diary, she has every motive to be extremely explicit and extremely honest with herself as to what happened, right? And in this diary, it's kind of vague. it doesn't even sound that damning because she's saying probably not appropriate. And so it's odd to me that if she really thought her dad did something wrong, why didn't she say something like, when my dad touched me in the shower, or when my dad looked at me in the shower, or when my dad ogled my naked body or something? Why didn't she say that? Because
Okay,
that likely never happened,
I
right?
said near the beginning of this, I don't say that because she didn't write that.
So
But the
what
fact,
you are claiming, what then?
uh, obviously, the man is not as good morally as most people
What
call
is the
him to be.
moral? What is the
More,
moral wrong?
moral. When it comes to parent, anybody that has good moral standing as a parent knows not to shower with their children. It's that is morally something you do not do. It doesn't. You don't have to be a religious person to believe that, or a non-religious person to believe that. Showering with your children is not morally good.
Great. Let me ask you a question. What about a mom who's brought her daughter to a swim practice and the daughter's 6 or 7? Is that mom morally corrupt for then going into the shower area of that swimming pool and showering with her 7-year-old daughter?
I
Of
don't
course not.
know. I don't know how you're distinguishing the difference between a woman showering with a little girl and a man showering with a little girl,
Be,
because there's a
because
huge
because
difference.
because no, I don't think it's a huge difference because
Yes,
I
there is.
think
Oh
parents
my
are
God.
no because parents are parents, right? When a mom and a dad is looking at a child and a child is looking at the mom or dad, they're not thinking man woman. It's parent child. That's the
There is
dynamic. So I'm
so
asking. I'm asking you again. Do you think it's morally corrupt for a mother to shower with a 7-year-old daughter? Yes or no?
no, because it's their daughter. A woman. It's a woman and a woman. All right.
Okay.
Now,
Do you think it's morally corrupt for a mother? And be honest. For a mother to shower, let's say Joe was busy and she had to bring one of the boys, and one of the boys had to shower afterwards. Would you think that mother is morally corrupt and likely of a pedophilic nature because she showered with her 7-year-old son?
wait, hold on. Say that one more time.
Sure. If, let's say, Joe normally brings the boys swimming, but Joe got busy, right? And so Jill had to go pick up the boys from swim school. Would you think that she's morally corrupt and had pedophile tendencies if she then showered with the 7-year-old boy?
Why would she have to shower with the 7-year-old boy?
I just explained it to you that Joe is not available, and so she has to go pick up the kids after
But
swim
why would Joe
practice
have to shower with the 7-year-old boy?
because they just shower together because they both swim together. So after swim, they go
Okay,
shower.
when you're swimming and you go to take a shower, you don't. When you get out, when you're done swimming, you don't take a shower naked.
What are you talking about? A lot of people do.
Not when it comes
Yeah.
to
So then you would call that woman a pedophile or immoral.
if it's
A
naked.
7-year-old mother.
Yes.
So you're saying a 7-year-old woman, a mother, who showers with their 7-year-old boy after swim practice or after going to the beach. You would say that that person is of immoral character and likely schmedophilic in nature.
There's tendencies there because
What's a tendency?
I've never been to a pool in my life, ever in my life, and I went to pools countless times, and I've never in my life seen anybody after they got out of the pool go into the shower and shower naked, ever.
I have no
Now,
idea
if
what
you're
you're
talking,
talking.
if you're
Hang on,
talking
hang on, hang on. I have no idea. Like, how old are you? Like, I don't think you're that
47.
much older than me. Yes, you're not like hugely older than me. Um, what are you talking about? I've absolutely seen that.
I have never in my life
Where
in
did
high
you grow
school.
up?
I'm sorry.
Where did you grow up? Not high school. We're talking about a 7-year-old.
No, I know that. I'm saying just I was giving an example, whether it's a local pool, a high school, anywhere. I've never seen anybody get out of the pool and take a shower completely naked, ever.
Okay, well, I definitely have. So I don't agree with your specific experience. Sorry.
That's number one. And number two, the last thing anybody is going to want to do, let's say, use your example, just say a local pool. when you're 7 years old. If you're a 7-year-old boy and you have to take a shower, first of all, if you're a 7-year-old boy, you could take a shower by yourself. That's the point of taking a shower. But if you're going to take a
But
shower,
some parents don't want to do that, and a lot of swimming pools have
and
family
but
changing
the
areas.
thing is, if you're a 7-year-old boy and you got to take a shower, and this mother wants to take a shower with this boy, what are the other men in the shower going to have to do?
There's a lot of family shower areas.
No.
Have you not been to swim areas?
Yes, I have.
Have you been to water parks?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, a lot of them have shared family facilities. What are you talking about?
Shared family facilities have happened in the last like 10 years.
Yeah, Eamon, I have no idea what the fuck he's talking about when he's claiming that 7-year-olds don't shower. When I was 7, I was absolutely showering around a lot of fucking dudes who are definitely not wearing trunks.
Hold on.
I didn't think twice of it.
Who's saying that you don't shower at 7?
No, you are saying that at the age of 7, when you went to public facilities like swimming or kayaking and stuff, that people wouldn't shower naked. That's so odd to me. That's a pretty common experience.
I went to pool. Literally, I can't count how many times I went to the local pools, and I never once ever saw anybody showering naked, ever.
Okay, well, you've got now 2 people saying that's not true, so I don't know what to tell you.
But the fact remains, Ashley Biden is telling herself probably not appropriate or probably inappropriate, okay?
Yeah.
She's telling herself that. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how you try to perceive it. That's what she's perceiving it herself.
Yeah, and then exactly. And then she said what she meant.
No, she said that to protect her family because that's what a lot of kids do. Huh?
How do you know that?
Because when I got SA'd when I was 6 years old by a gay man, I never said anything to my parents because I was trying to protect them.
But you have now as an adult.
No, they still don't know.
Okay, but you have spoken about it as an adult.
I have spoken as an adult, but I've never.
Right.
My parents.
Ashley Biden hasn't.
Ashley Biden has never denied it.
Ashley Biden has denied it.
She has never denied it.
She's literally said it's being grossly misinterpreted.
Again, she is going to protect her family. That's what a lot of kids do, especially even kids that are.
You're guessing.
Are you going to sit here and tell me that there's kids that have actually been? Let me try to use the wording right, so there's no flagging on TikTok. Gotten punished. Let's just say punished. Kids that have been punished brutally by their parents have never said, "Nothing. My parents aren't doing anything."
Yeah, and there's also been lots of kids who've stepped up and have said they did.
But Ashley Biden is going to protect her father, who's in the public spotlight.
You're assuming that. You understand that we currently have
Robert.
Hang on. You understand we currently have a Kennedy running, and
yes.
You understand that his family members are saying he's a lunatic. You understand there was that senator from, was it Georgia, North Carolina? I can't remember. And his own son came out and said, "This is a crazy person. Do not vote for this person."
Yes, and there's going to
turn on their kids all the time. So saying that she's going to protect the father. You don't know her motivations. You don't know Ashley Biden. You know nothing about her.
Okay, so based on what you're saying, that means we don't know because you brought up, for instance, the 26. You said Trump is definitely a rapist because
no. Stop deflecting. I'll happily talk about Trump.
No, it's not deflecting because it all makes the same point.
Sure, let's go ahead and deflect again. Go ahead.
It's not a deflection because these women that supposedly accuse Trump of things. But there's no proof of him doing it.
There's an accusation.
An accusation is not proof.
Biden hasn't even made an accusation.
An accusation is not proof, but Ashley Biden's diary is saying it's probably inappropriate.
This is why you're bad faith, Bear. You're bad faith because of the fact that you're saying, I believe Ashley Biden, right? You're saying, Bear, who read the diary, that you're a champion for Ashley Biden, that Ashley Biden clearly told the truth in her diary, and you believe her no matter what, right? But you don't really believe Ashley Biden because Ashley Biden's telling you you're wrong. And the other dozens of women who accuse Trump, you don't believe them. So do you understand that you are entirely inconsistent? Whereas I'm consistent in my worldview.
Because Ashley Biden is
I believe victims who come forward. Ashley Biden has never come forward and called herself a victim.
Because she is protecting her father.
How do you know that?
A lot of kids do it.
So you don't know that. You're guessing, correct?
She wrote it to herself.
So you don't know that, so you're guessing,
She
correct?
wrote it to herself.
And did she say she was molested, yes or no?
I didn't say that she was
her
molested.
father was a Petritio? Did she say that her father touched her inappropriately? Did she say that her father looked at her inappropriate? Did she say any of that, yes or no?
She said it was probably inappropriate that they took showers together.
Did she say that he touched or looked or anything like that, yes or no?
No, she didn't.
No, she didn't. So why are you insisting she did?
Because if she's saying to herself, probably inappropriate.
Probably inappropriate.
Yes, that means that something might have probably was inappropriate.
Might have, correct?
Right.
Might have, right? And so when asked, she said, oh, yeah, no, I understand how you could make that mistake. But yeah, no, that's not what I meant.
Again,
but you
probably
still want to, but you are still
father.
desperate to believe what she wrote and how you interpret it rather than listen
No,
to her.
it's because you Trump haters don't want to accept the person that you vote for might be shady, not the person that you think he is.
If Joe Biden had his daughter come out and accuse him of schmexually molesting her, I would absolutely call for him to lose the presidency. Without question. I wouldn't hesitate. Unlike a Trumper, I wouldn't hesitate. But she hasn't done that. You're just
because she's
wishing
protecting
she
her
did.
father.
Do you want to know do you want to know what's kind of gross is? You're literally wishing she was raped as a child. You're literally hoping that's the case.
No, I'm not. I'm calling out the hypocrisy between Trump haters.
How am I a hypocrite?
Okay,
I believe victims who come forward and claim that they have been raped unless there's a material reason not to. Ashley Biden has never come forward and claimed she was raped. So how am I inconsistent?
You're inconsistent because you called Trump a rapist, and there's no proof he has.
How is that inconsistent with my position regarding Ashley Biden's diary?
Because
there's no inconsistency there.
Again, Ashley Biden wrote it to herself, thinking nobody else is going to read it.
And how is that? Listen, Bear, I don't know if you're normally used to like debating total fucking idiots or something. What is the inconsistency? I believe the victims of Trump who came forward and said, that man essayed me. And I believe them unless I've been given a material reason not to.
All right,
that's hang on. That's my principle. That's my overarching reason for believing Trump is a rapist, right? Because there's victims who came forward, and I don't see any reason to disbelieve them. In this case, there's no victim who came forward. So there's no inconsistency.
Hold on. You just said...
Did you just hear... Hang on, stop. Did you just hear what I said? Repeat back what I just said. What is my principle as it pertains to the allegations against Trump? What is my governing principle?
Because people came forward, you're tended to believe them unless otherwise there's circumstances that...
Did a woman come forward against Biden? Did Ashley Biden come forward against her dad? Yes or no?
Ashley Biden?
No. So there's no hypocrisy.
Okay. Let me ask you a question.
Sure.
Do you think it's possible that Ashley Biden is protecting her father?
Sure.
So that possibility is there?
Sure. It's a possibility that you also abused your daughter, for all I know. That's a possibility.
No, that's actually not possible because I don't have a daughter. So,
okay, your son. It's possible that you fiddled your son. That's a possibility, right? Would you like me to go around telling all of Chicago that Bear fiddled his son because it's a possibility? Does that make sense? Does that make sense to you?
What just happened? Did he just go dark? What just happened?
I asked you a question. I'm sending myself something real quick. If you can answer my question, there is a chance that you have essayed your child. Would it be fair to you if I started going around Chicago saying that you essayed your child? Yes or no?
If I did, yes.
Okay, but you don't know that Joe Biden did. It's just a possibility. So there's a possibility that you, Bear, have fiddled your own child. So should I now start going around? Hey, there's a possibility that Bear fiddled his child.
If there's proof, yes. Especially if my child wrote it to himself.
Yeah, in this case, Ashley Biden did not write it to herself. Ashley Biden does not talk about being schmexually assaulted, does not talk about being ogled by her father, does not talk about any of that. What she says is showers with my dad. You do understand what this could also refer to as they could have had a pool, right? And if they had that pool, this could have been literally when the kids, the boys and girls came in and he would shower them after the pool. That could literally be what it refers to. Could it not?
You are trying to make excuses for something
Could
that
it
was
not?
obviously. You are definitely. What are you doing? Why do you keep going to pause? I'm confused why you're doing this. And I'm not screaming
I don't
melody.
understand why me pausing matters at all. So isn't that another possibility that this could have been that post shower, they simply, Joe would take her and the two others and shower them? Is that not also a possibility? This could be
There's
a
a great
post
amount of.
pool shower.
There's a great amount of possibilities, but the fact
Okay,
remains.
so why are you running to the one where she's saying nope, it's not that one?
The fact remains, she wrote to herself, probably. This is the thing that you keep avoiding. She wrote to herself, probably
avoiding
not
anything.
appropriate. She's writing it to herself. That means in her mind, it was not appropriate.
No,
This is the part that you're ignoring.
Hang on, Bear. The fucking irony. You're ignoring the word probably. Are you ignoring that word, Bear?
No, I'm
Right?
not.
She
You are.
didn't tell herself it was inappropriate. She said, you know what? Probably inappropriate.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. Am I just being a stickler? I'm sorry for actually reading what she said. Did
No,
you
because
read all of what she said?
This is what all you Trump haters do. You try to make excuses when you can't actually accept that there's a possibility there that she's protecting her
There
father.
is a possibility, Bear. I've already said there is. You also agree it's a possibility there's nothing to protect, correct? So
Yes.
in the case where there's multiple possibilities and the person you're calling a victim is telling you, I'm not a victim, am I meant to believe Bear, the dude who lives by himself in a studio apartment in Chicago, or the purported victim? Who do you think I should listen to more? Who do you think knows more what happened?
Well, obviously the person that wrote it.
Okay, so maybe I'm not being a hypocrite by saying, I'm going to believe the person who was there. I'm going to believe the person who wrote it. I'm going to believe the person who lived it, rather than the random person in Chicago who's exploiting a woman's private, intimate thoughts in order to weaponize it against his political opponent. You know how gross it is? I want to be really clear. It's so gross that you're literally wishing and hoping she was raped so that you can take down Biden, so you can say bad shit about Biden. If Biden did this, I have no problems telling him he should not be president. He should go straight to jail. No hesitation whatsoever in saying that, right? But you are literally hoping she was raped just so you can win a political point. That's disgusting. That makes you sus. Do you not believe that? Do you not see how that makes you sus?
It doesn't make me sus because number one, I didn't say any of that. You did.
You didn't say any of what?
You think based on what your analogy is, you think I'm praying that she got raped or whatever or essayed
you agree
whatever.
There's multiple possibilities, and you're deciding that one possibility is what likely happened, in spite of the fact she's saying that's not the case. Yes, you seem to be willing it to happen. How is that me being wrong? You're literally choosing the one option that she's saying it's not. You're literally hoping
Because I've been
she's
a
lying.
victim. Have you been a victim?
Yes, I have been a victim. That doesn't make you special.
And no, a victim
You don't
means
get. Hang on. You don't get to
hide.
use. You don't get to use your victimhood in order to be able to exploit this woman who has nothing to do with you and your agenda.
It has nothing to do with my agenda. It shows the hypocrisy.
What
That
hypocrisy? You have not exposed any
yes, I
hypocrisy
have
whatsoever.
because
No,
you
you
don't
haven't.
like the hypocrisy. That's why that I've exposed
You
you on.
don't even know what the hypocrisy. How have I been a hypocrite? What
I'm
is a
sorry.
hypocrite? What's the definition of a hypocrite?
The exact definition, word for word, I can.
No, no, no,
I'm
no,
not
no,
going to
no. I'm
tell you
not
word
doing
for
that.
word, but
I'm
being a
not going to say
hypocrite
that. Yeah,
is complaining about one thing while being silent about another.
that's not a hypocrite.
Yes, it is. When you're bitching about one thing and you're silent about another one person that you know that's doing the same thing and you're not saying anything about it. That's being a hypocrite.
That's closer to what it is. So it's someone who is purporting to have like a certain set of moral values that they believe in, but then they are behaving in a very different way. So, for example, I am a hypocrite when it comes to eating meat. I am morally a vegan, but I eat chicken, steak, pig all the goddamn time. That makes me a hypocrite because I'm saying it's right to not eat meat, but I eat meat. Now I'm a hypocrite. Now you tell me what is my moral position as it pertains to Trump relating to SA that I hold towards Trump that I don't hold towards Biden.
Because you are trying to say that even though Ashley Biden is saying probably inappropriate or probably not appropriate, is that it could be a million different things, and so you're saying that it doesn't mean Biden did it. Yet
Yeah,
you think
because Ashley said that.
yet you think
Because Ashley said that.
because Trump was accused, even though there is even the store employees couldn't even put him in the store just because he was accused, he's guilty. Even though there's no evidence he was
Great.
even in the store.
First of all, first person testimony is evidence, and that's evidence sufficient to convict.
There was no
And
evidence that he was even in the store.
did you just hear what I said?
Yes, I heard what you said. And just because somebody accuses you of
That is
something,
evidence.
that doesn't mean it's true.
That is evidence, though.
You know how many people's careers have been destroyed by false accusations?
Hardly any. That is
Hardly any.
evidence.
Are you kidding?
No, I'm not. I'm just educated.
The most recent one, this Buffalo kid, this young kid drafted to the Buffalo Bills, within a week got cut because he was accused of rape by a woman, and he got his life destroyed, and found out she was lying. Career done. Walker Bueller, a baseball player, I think that was his name, a pitcher for the Los Angeles Dodgers, accused by 3 women, cut by the Dodgers. This was recently as well. Now he's playing in
Yeah, I mean,
in an independent league. Now he's playing in an independent league because they found out all 3 women lied.
Sure, we could talk about them after we get through this example, and that is you've not yet shown how I'm hypocritical. I'm not sure if you're just lacking the intelligence to be able to understand that you're not doing it, or you're doing this in bad faith.
No,
My moral principle is that if a victim comes forward and there's no material reason to disbelieve them, that I'm going to believe them. That's my moral principle. That's my I believe eating meat is bad, right? As it pertains to Trump, the women who've come forward about him, the ones that I've looked at, I don't see a material reason why they would be lying. When I look at Biden, there's one allegation against him. And personally, I see some compelling reasons not to believe her. But we're not even talking about her. We're talking about Ashley Biden. And Ashley Biden has never made a claim against her father. Now you're trying to take this one passage, but have you like your whole account is called Ashley Biden's diary. Have you even read the diary?
hold on one second.
Sure, I'm confident that's a very important call. Oh, that was such a tease. And I was the one getting in trouble for pausing earlier.
Hello?
Yep.
Hey, sorry, that's my wife. She's got an emergency. I gotta go.
Sure. We'll finish debating at another point.
All
Good
right.
luck with the emergency. What I was about to do, but since you guys are all here, I might as well do it with you guys, was for anyone who wants to contextualize this diary, it's important to go back a couple of days. You know that whole thing, context? The thing that a lot of people don't want to bother looking into, such as that guy. So let's talk about the context. So what's important to note is that she was talking at the time about a crisis she was going through where she was dealing with alcohol problems. She was in AA at the time. But she was also having a really hard time reconnecting with having sex sober. She had had sex when she was drunk on a regular basis, but she hadn't been able to have sex while she was sober on a regular basis. And she was really having problems understanding what to do. And so I'm going to show you the 4 key pages. Page 3 is the critical page, but the lead up is important. Ashley says as follows: I didn't have to do it, but maybe it would be healing, and then again, and she's talking about getting with this guy, but maybe it would be healing, and then again, maybe it would be opening up more wounds that will take me longer to adjust to and get over with. I am going to give it a few days and see how I feel. I erased his number from my phone, so can't contact him unless he is to contact. You know what? I just realized I can make this a little bit better. 1 second, sorry. Okay, at least you get more of the lines. Um, I erased his number from my phone, so can't contact him unless he is to contact me, which he won't. I think I need to have sex in order to get it to get it hmm, in order to feel good about not having sex. I think I need to have sex in order to feel good about not having sex and to get it over with. Neil's friend is a sex addict, which might work out well. So she's talking about basically easing back into having sex after not having sex for a while because she's been in AA. Then the next page continues. I know it's not the healthy way to deal with things. At least it's better than drugs. I am focused on myself and my needs, and sex seems, at least at this moment, to be one of them. I don't know if I even need to kiss a guy. Just come over and F me sober. I think I'm going to go to an AA meeting tomorrow night, and maybe he will be there, maybe not. So we'll stop there. The crisis she was having is that she's dealing with AA, she's dealing with not having schmecks sober, and she's trying to understand why she doesn't want to have sex. And that's when she is sort of now calling back on the fact that she used to be extremely boy crazy. And she says, again, just to go back, I just need a guy to come over and F me sober. I think I'm going to go to an AA meeting tomorrow night. Maybe he'll be there. But I have always been boy crazy. I remember pulling up my skirt in second grade and showing the boys my underpants. Hypersexualized at a young age? What does this do to? Question mark. So what she's saying is that she needs to start having schmecks again, that she only used to have schmecks when she was drunk, that now that she's sober, she's having a hard time getting back into schmecks, and she's realizing that she used to be extremely into boys, and then she's also realizing that she was into boys from a very young age. She started to show young boys, her underpants in second grade. So then she starts to explore why that may not be. And she says, maybe she's basically saying, maybe hypersexualized at a young age? What does this do to? And Trumpers love to focus on the next 3 words. Was I schmolested? That was I schmolested is one of the answers. And so they like to say, was I molested? Is the question, and everything else is an answer. And that's a misreading. It's not even a misreading. It's completely bad faith on their part. The question she's asking herself, I believe I was hypersexualized at a young age. What does this do to? And this is now her basically spitballing ideas as to why she may have been interested in boys and boy crazy. Her first option is, was I molested? I think so. I can't remember specifics, but I do remember trauma, dash, I remember not liking the Woolsacks house. Now, if Trumpers actually gave two shits about sexual assault and two shits about finding Petridios, they'd be knocking on Woolsacks house. That couldn't be more clear. Was I molested? I think so. I can't remember specifics, but I do remember trauma, dash, I remember not liking the Woolsacks house. That is one complete thought. Semicolon, next thought. I remember somewhat being sexualized with Caroline. Semicolon, next thought. I remember having schmecks with friends at a young age. We don't know what age that is. Semicolon. Showers with my dad, probably not appropriate. Semicolon. Being turned on when I wasn't supposed to be. Now, to me, she's basically creating, what is the word I'm looking for? When there's like a list of things that when you're trying to brainstorm, a brainstorming list, or some other word for it, I can't remember. But this is her brainstorming the reasons why she felt as though she was boy crazy. And she believed it was because maybe she was hypersexualized at a young age. And now she's trying to figure out what are the things that may have led to her being hypersexualized. Now, these are all semicolons. So these are all different options. So the was I molested has nothing to do with the showers with my dad. That said, I do wonder if the one that says showers with my dad is connected with the next line, which is being turned on when I wasn't supposed to be. I wonder if what she was saying was not appropriate was that she saw her dad naked and maybe she got turned on by her dad. And so that's why I actually think there's probably a likelihood that what they're talking about there is that the father would be showering and a 7-year-old girl would be coming in to pee, or a 7-year-old girl would be coming in to wash her hair, wash her hands or something, and that she would see her dad, which I think is a pretty common thing, and that she would get turned on by that and feel guilty about it. To me, that's the most likely interpretation of what it is they're saying. And that's buttressed, I think, by this next paragraph, which gets a little over-schmexual. So I'll skip the top two. I remember the Q-tips. I remember getting my ears clean. I'm going to skip the top
Were
one.
you thinking Iris Reed's process of elimination?
How so?
When you were saying that, when you put a list together in your head, and she was just naming things.
No, I don't know what word it is. I mean, I think brainstorm is probably it. But I'm trying to think, like, what do you call a brainstorming list? Is there not a better word for that? I'm not sure. But so she then says that she did overhear her parents having schmecks. And honestly, like at this point, if anything happened between her and her father, I'd kind of expect her to be explicit at it because she's being pretty explicit about other things here. But then she notes, what made me so attached? And the word attached here, I think what she's talking about is to the idea of men. And she then says, my mother was not emotionally available. And then when people are trying to say this is a great example of how Biden was a bad father, actually, she says, my father was, meaning my father was emotionally available. Message, maybe I could get love from men. So what she's saying is, My mother wasn't emotionally available, but my father was. So maybe because my father gave me emotional stability and love, I became boy crazy because I viewed or associated love and affection with boys only. And then she continues listing out other things as to why she may be so attached. The mother must have said at some point, "I'm not your mother," which is like, what the hell is that about? Blanket being taken away, no idea. Not letting myself go to the bathroom, I don't know. Being wiped until too late in the game, which is something I thought was weird, but that's on them. I could list all the reasons, but I can't seem to find the solution. And then the next day she does this entry where she says, "The last day of February, thank you, Lord Jesus. I'm getting better each day and realizing it was the intimate connections that I am grieving and got obsessed with." The intimacy being with men. So I think when you look at this completely, like it is grotesque that I'm dissecting this person's diary. I'm aware I'm dissecting it. I'm aware it feels grotesque. I feel as though at this point, given how people on Trump's side keep on trying to pervert what this is, that it's helpful. Oh, Jill's a stepmom. I didn't know that. I think it's helpful to actually educate people on what the diary actually says. And I hope, to the extent like Ashley ever heard of people going through her diary and talking about it, that she would be at least in favor of the people who are doing it in order to clear up misinformation. Because what I see here is a woman who feels as though she didn't have control over her attraction to men, that she felt as though it was premature, it happened to her at a young age, where she believed that it came from some sort of sense of being hypersexualized, and then she brainstormed reasons why she may have felt hypersexualized at a young age. And I think Joe doesn't understand boundaries for damn sure. No question about that. I don't like how he touches people at all. But overwhelmingly, the people around him have said they've never got a sense that it's a schmexual thing for him. And so that doesn't mean that he couldn't, offend, upset, or harm people. He absolutely could. But I think there's no evidence that he would be doing it for a schmexual reason. And so to me, it's just really sort of grotesque that these people are actively trying to take Ashley Biden's diary and pervert it into something that really, when you read it, she clearly loves her father, views her father as someone who's emotionally sensitive, emotionally available, and may actually be the reason why she views men so positively. So, for anyone who's reading this and was like kind of disturbed, like, why are we going through this person's diary? The election's coming up. I kind of feel like I may start flipping over this Trump stuff more because I don't know. I care about this pretty passionately. It does overlap with a lot of women's issues, which is something I really care about. And I do think that this is one thing that has to be addressed because I don't like how liberals are addressing this issue. Liberals who turn around and say that Ashley Biden never confirmed this was her diary, I don't think they're helping at all. Like, I think it's a pretty damn... We can't know for sure, but I think it's fair to say it's very likely this is her diary. But I don't see why we should run away from that. Because when I read this diary, I'm not seeing a man who's a bad man. I don't know. What's your thoughts, Ernesto?
No, I agree with that. I think one of his biggest flaws that he doesn't even realize he has is the fact that he is just overly affectionate without understanding that other people aren't going to be that comfortable. He does that with adults. He does that with his grandkids. He does that with everyone, where he is a little more just touchy, but he feels that that's not inappropriate. So could he be unintentionally making people feel uncomfortable? For sure, I can see that, but that doesn't mean that one that doesn't make it anything like what we've seen with Trump. Not at all.
Yeah,
Because
no, I agree.
he's been very, very specific, just in the manner that he speaks to and about women, and how he talks about people um, when he doesn't. Well, no, even with the mic on, when he just in multiple interviews, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how you can attack Joe Biden for these diary entries and not be seriously concerned by Trump's statements that, how he sexualized his own daughter. Like, I've never heard Joe Biden talk like that. Like, what was the exact quote? I can't remember, but something like,
If
if
I
she
well,
was
if he
older,
wasn't my daughter, would be dating.
that's what it was. Like, I'm someone who, like, my jokes are all about pushing boundaries. I don't think I would ever say that to even a cousin. Like, that's just a weird thing to say to someone, in my opinion. Oh, sorry, boss lady. Didn't mean to invite you. Fat thumbs, my bad. Like, I don't think I'd even say that to a cousin. Like, that's just such a weird thing to say. And this idea of schmexualizing the father and all that, I don't really, I just don't understand it. I think reading this diary, it does sort of help show the harm that could be done by a parent viewing themselves as asexual in the eyes of their child, which I understand why they would view themselves as asexual. But I think, if anything, this diary maybe shows that a parent shouldn't view themselves as asexual. But I don't think parents look at their kids and think man and woman, girl and boy. I think they just see their child.
Yeah, child.
So, like, this idea that a father getting in a shower with their son or daughter, either or, that one's weird and one's not, I don't think most parents think like that.
Yeah, I hope. Sorry. Hi, Irish. Been a
Hey,
while.
what's going on?
Um, I hope. See, and that was kind of my thing. I hope that that's a normal thought that they don't. I'm not sure if this is coming out because of the whole Trump thing.
Because of the whole what?
Because of the whole Trump and the election and him
Oh, this
fully
has been out
being
for years. But it's been drummed up more recently because of the election. But this has been known for years at this point.
okay. Also being Canadian, I'm not. I mean, we hear it. It's blowing. Or sorry, it's insane what's going on. Hearing all about this. At the end of the day, a rapist is a rapist. It's you even from the moment. I don't know here in Canada it's not proven if it's just there seems to be for sorry I'm just it listening to this made me a little emotional because I wasn't sure if my comment was filtered. It probably was.
I didn't see your
um
comment. Please share what your comment was.
so it was probably a little harsh. So I am a child victim of CSAM. I'm a child victim of
Hmm.
CSA. I grew up with a biological father who I don't even want to call who was a P3DO. That was my life. A lot of people thought that he was the awesome family guy, like the just the nicest person. A lot of people didn't know that behind closed doors that I grew up with a monster that people just didn't know. And then hearing this article, what Ashley was saying that showering that part that was a norm for me. That was something that happened not only to me but my two older brothers as well.
Are
And
you saying as
that was
part of your essay or as part of your as part of like normal parenting?
no, sorry. Part for me though, that was normal, like parenting. I know now as an adult it's not. But growing up, like from the age of when I was born till the age of 6, when I went into foster care, but to me that was norm. that was normal for your father to shower and bathe with you. It was normal for things to happen inappropriately, to be touched inappropriately, to be raped inappropriate, to be lusted inappropriate, like that. That was normal. I thought everybody's parents did that to them because I was taught no different. And like obviously out in public, people didn't know that he was a monster. So people would allow their children to come over to like our apartment and or wherever we were because they didn't know. I also endured severe physical, mental, emotional abuse in many aspects. So that's what my life was, and I didn't know any different. So thinking in that lifestyle that this was the norm, this is what
Are
everybody
you
else went
suggesting
through.
your personal experience lends credibility to the idea that she was schmexually assaulted?
What do you mean, Irish?
Well, so she's saying that she showered with her dad. I think you're saying that your father showered with you inappropriately, correct? Or am I misunderstanding?
Like, I I think I might be not saying it right. Um, because she's saying that she questioned herself a lot of the time, wondering if
Yeah,
maybe that's why a lot of her what like why a lot of it was hyper um sorry,
sexualization. Yeah.
hyper, thank you, yes. And thinking that maybe that's like she questioned maybe that's why, and not understanding and not realizing that she's having feelings and things like that due to of why that was based off of. And like because that isn't a normal thing, as you said, right? But I was saying that like because of that, I thought that was a normal thing. So her thinking that that was a normal thing for her, and then she questioned herself, oh, is that why a lot of what she went through, and this is why she had a hyper, it became hypersexualized, is what it, sorry,
Well, that's what I'm saying is you're
sexualized.
suggesting
Yeah.
then that the showering could imply an inappropriate relationship then.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think it could be indicative of one. I think that like the problem is that there's many different ways you could view this. I could view this as indicating that there was an inappropriate sexual relationship. I could view it as this was a appropriate showering situation because we don't have ages or any other details here. Like as I
Hmm.
said, he could have very well had a pool and this could have been post pool shower, in which case I wouldn't think twice about it. Or this could have been something where she's referring to the fact that he was in the shower and she would come in and use the bathroom, which I think is really normal. And so we don't know
Hmm.
exactly what it is she's saying took place. Or it could be the third option, which is that he showered with her until an older age, 6 or 7, which I think a lot of people wouldn't, but he didn't do it for sexual reasons. But that doesn't mean he didn't leave harm. And I would probably say the most likely worst case scenario is the latter one. That I could imagine that he showered with her, not realizing that it could have harmed her in some way. But I'm not really seeing any other indication that she had been assaulted when she was a child, given the remainder of the diary.
Yes, I do
And,
agree.
and,
I
oh, and
do,
also,
yes.
especially since earlier in this same page, she's literally talking about being potentially molested, but she's identifying a totally different person. So she's literally talking about being molested by potential people. If her dad was one of them, why wouldn't she just have said that in her diary? That's what's weird to me.
Yeah, and yes, sorry, I was, yes, sorry, my apologies. Yes, I was trying to get to that where I agree. There's absolutely no indication of that, and for my apologies, sorry, I didn't break that off to say that absolutely there is no part and my of that, and I have kind of read a little bit of the diary, and I was going to say, is there any part that, and I haven't seen any part of it that, because it kind of indicates the same, because unfortunately, I am a survivor of at least 50 different um, different men who have taken advantage of me. But the point is, it seems to me that there is indication of her being a victim of SA, of grape, of other things from someone else. That's kind of what I've caught on to, because she doesn't. And then in a couple other pieces, um, that, and it's not something I don't want to say I'm proud of, but it's part of my story, and it's made me the woman I am today, of being a
I
20-year survivor of this.
I agree with
There,
you. I get the sense in reading this as
mm-hmm,
well that
mm-hmm,
something bad happened to her, and she says as much on this page that she has memories but nothing specific. But her hypersexualization in her diary, she talks about how she doesn't want to be boy crazy, but that it's like a drug for her. And to
mm-hmm,
me, when people talk about sex in that way, it's a dependency. That means it's been used as a proxy for something. And so that's not a healthy relationship with sex. And so, yeah, I agree. I think it's likely something happened to her when she was younger, which unfortunately happens to a stupid number of people. And
absolutely.
this is her, I think Grace used the right word for it. This is her stream of consciousness trying to figure out what could it be that has led her. I think she's identifying habits in her as an adult that she's recognizing are abnormal, and she's
Mm-hmm.
trying to look back into her childhood to determine what may be the cause of that.
I think there's a couple things though with this that we have to call out specifically. Um, this diary was acquired through I don't know if you guys covered this before.
Yeah, I reject all of RTP's talking points. You can tell him as
I'm
much.
not
I'm
talking about
sorry.
RGP. He's actually hasn't talked about this.
Oh, he has. I've heard him talk about it. He's talked about how this may not be her diary and
No,
that she's
that's not
never
what I'm talking about
verified
at
it.
all.
Oh, okay. What are you talking about? Go for it.
No, so what it came out? A woman was sentenced in Florida for
Yeah.
stealing the diary, and it was sold to Project Veritas, who has been known and received lawsuits against them for altering footage and information. They do believe that the diary is real, but there's parts of it that haven't been verified.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just don't bother dying on that hill, only in the sense that there's no indication or reason to believe that this part has been um, tweaked. But then, more importantly, I don't
They
think
tried.
this is
They
bad.
tried to sell it to the Trump campaign in 2020 first, before Project Veritas got it.
Yeah, but that doesn't indicate whether it's true or not. If anything, that would indicate more so that it's true. Otherwise, you
I'm not
wouldn't
saying the diary
sell.
isn't real. I'm not
No,
saying
this
that. What
page,
I'm
I'm
saying
saying.
is there's parts of it, and we obviously don't know the context. She has testified or spoke on to about it publicly since then. That what people are indicating about the diary was was not accurate. The context that people are putting around it isn't accurate.
Yeah, wait, were you here when I went through all 5 pages?
No, I wasn't. That's what I just. That's
Oh,
what I said.
yeah, no. So I went through all 5 pages. So this is why, like, the people who debate this and go along the train of saying we don't know if it's real or not, if you read all 5 pages, I don't think there's anything here that I'm too worried about. Basically, she's talking about the fact that she has developed three really bad habits in her life. One is drugs, one is alcohol, and the other is having casual sex. And she combined them quite often. She would have sex while she was drunk. And the context of this page is she's struggling with the fact that she's scared now to have sex sober because she doesn't know what that is. And as she's struggling with the fact that she just really wants to have sex sober to get it over and done with, so that she can just sort of like normalize herself to some degree, she then starts asking herself, why am I so boy crazy? And then she starts theorizing, you know what? I'm so boy crazy. I remember in the second grade, I literally showed kids my underwear. And then she starts going, maybe I'm boy crazy because I was hypersexualized at a young age. And then this is her stream of consciousness in terms of what are the possible reasons how she was hypersexualized. And one of the reasons is because she believes that the showers with her dad were probably not appropriate. But the reasons why I don't think she's implying anything in bad faith on her father is she's not saying her father did anything wrong. She's just saying that her father used to shower with her and that she thinks that that may not have been appropriate for her. And I connect it with the next statement where she says that being turned on when I wasn't supposed to be. I suspect what happened was she believes she got turned on by her father and that she feels great guilt and shame, but that also led to a hypersexualization. And if you go to the next page, she literally talks about how her father was actually a very good father who was very emotionally available to her, and that it's likely because her father was so emotionally sensitive that she started to associate men specifically as being a way of making her, giving her validation in the form of love. And so this is why I don't really care about, was it stolen, was it not, is this tweaked, is it not? Because if you read the whole 5 pages, I don't see anything here that Joe Biden did wrong. I think there's a good talking point to have, which is we should recognize that even if you're not doing something in bad faith as a parent, you could still mess up your kid. Because if he was showering with her, let's say the worst case that he was showering with her, both of them were schmaked, and she was 5, right? Um, I think a lot of parents wouldn't even think twice about that. But I think reading this diary makes you realize you should think twice about it. Because even if you view yourself as a parent, your child is not viewing yourself as a parent in that sense. And your child will have natural curiosities and interests. And unfortunately, they don't want to associate that with your physical form. And so, if anything, I feel like, he may have showered with her a little bit later than what he should have, not because he was a bad person, but I think he may have messed up his kid as a result of it. I think that's perfectly possible. I don't think that disqualifies him as being a president in any way.
I do. Yeah, I agree with that, Irish. I do. I'm absolutely. And when again, childhood trauma, the imprint can start at the age of 2, and I really going through the diary. There's really not indication of honest. Like you get the red flags. Even just yeah. Compared to other victims and such as there's just not again like you said there was no huge indication of that, but no, I do agree with you on this as well. I really
I, I,
don't
I just I just don't know why she would say she was maybe molested by one person and never mention her father as being one of them. But Precure, to the mods, there's no need to mute Barb's. Barb's can keep saying what she's saying. Like she's not using slurs, she's not cursing, she's not being impolite. She's just being, vocal in her opinion. Uh, I think that's okay. Yeah, exactly, Nutka. And so this is a question that I have for you guys. This is the first time I've ever gone into this diary with this sort of level of depth. And the reason why I was doing it was because I met that guy who has the title Ashley Biden's Diary. And I think it's just sort of grotesque that so many people are sort of like using Ashley Biden's diary to attack her dad and exploiting her private thoughts. But I'm also keenly aware of the fact that I am also going through her intimate thoughts, right? And that there's something grotesque about that as well. I'm doing it to combat misinformation that I think ultimately harms her, but there is something grotesque about me going through these. So, like, what do people in the comments think? And just because you say it doesn't mean I'm going to follow it. So feel free to be open. Like, don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Um, this made some people feel icky. Did it make you think that we shouldn't do this? Because there's a lot of Trump people who keep on using this diary.
Like the entire thing makes me feel icky. Like the fact that it was stolen and that they tried to sell it to the Trump campaign, and even the Trump campaign was like, we can't like verify this, you should give it to the FBI. And they were like, nope, we want to make money. So like just that alone is like so uncomfortable, but it's like it's out there now. So I think it is important to talk about, because one thing that Trumpers always do, also, hi everybody. One thing that Trumpers always do is this like whole tit for tat thing. So like, well, like if Trump's being accused, then like Biden did it too. And they do that with like literally, it's the whole what about Biden thing. And
I mean,
it's
were
just,
you here
it's
for
not,
that guy the entire time?
yeah,
Like he didn't
yeah.
have a talk. All he kept saying was, "What about Trump?" Like,
I,
yeah, it was so brain dead.
Yeah, like, and that's the whole thing is like they're just using it as a tool, and I like to degrade like her, to degrade Biden, which is like fine. I guess you can like do those things, but why did you have to drag her into it, take her words out of context, make her a victim of a situation, and then at the same time like don't believe actual victims of Trump? Like,
That's what's pissing me off.
So the whole thing is like just so disgusting. I mean, I never went to read it myself, but I did listen because I was curious. And yeah, it is out there now, and I think it is important to know the context around it so that you can just be like, oh yeah, this really is a nothing burger. And people really should just let this go, but they're never going to, because it's like the only thing that they have, like that and Biden's like accuser that fled to Russia. So it does make me feel icky to read it, because I'm like, but at the same time, it's relatable. Like, I'm a woman close to her age. I've written down things to process my feelings, but it's just such an egregious, like, to take somebody's diary, like their deepest, darkest thoughts, and then to project everything onto them. I don't know. It's just like, it's so gross. It's gross. But I don't think what you did was wrong by talking about it.
No. This is where, like, I honestly think it's important to have this discussion because, like, I was keenly aware. I felt gross reading it, right? And then you feel even more grotesque analyzing it, right? But at the same time, I kind of feel like it's out there, and that doesn't fucking make it like any better. Because like I also remember, do you guys remember the fappening?
Before you say that, I just like, if I was Ashley Biden and I came across this TikTok live somehow, I'd rather hear your side than many of the other people, like including some of the liberals, like here on TikTok, that just kind of like, whatever, like over it. But yeah, it's misinformation. We should know the context around it.
Like, yeah. Like,
Yeah, but I would like people in the comments, like, if people think there should be a line drawn, again, I'm not saying I'm going to agree with you, but I want to hear your opinions on it because this does feel gross to me. But like, what makes me feel more gross is that dude had an entire account called Ashley Biden's Diary, which was dedicated to exploiting a woman's personal, intimate thoughts and making her into a victim when he himself would never believe a victim.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. It's like, you don't care anyway.
They don't at
Like, the
all.
whole thing is that you just want to make Biden look bad. And like, he can do that on his own, guys. It's okay. But like, he's still not as bad as Trump. So like, you guys are in a cult. Get over it. Leave Ashley Biden alone. She's like not even in the spotlight, like at all. I mean, not for in my world anyway. But I just
but then for
only
him to
watch
say
Taylor
that,
Swift.
oh
so.
yeah, I am a victim myself.
And
Yeah.
to keep on
That's what
trying to
got me.
weaponize that. Yeah.
I was like, how can you sit there or stand or whatever the hell he was doing and say you're a victim and then completely, that got me. I was
Yeah.
like, wow, then you should be completely ashamed of yourself to do what you're doing. just
And then
do
he
better.
went on to just like he was sexualizing children like the entire time with his like whole like, oh no, you don't like shower with your 6 or 7 year old, like never. And I'm like, what? But you're the parent, like. And I get like obviously there's stuff that is inappropriate that can happen, but he was the one that was like being so creepy, and that's the whole thing.
What's
I do
interesting to
think.
me when this kind of
Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
conversation comes up, and just in general, is people will put adults will put something sexual against children. For example, when they say like something with LGBTQ, they look at certain things in an adult lens to make things inappropriate that aren't. I'm not saying that there couldn't be something inappropriate that happens, but what I have noticed is sometimes that adults will go and put something as inappropriate that may or may not be.
Hard agree.
Yeah.
But before we move on, who's this person? There's rumors that he follows teen girls, and then someone said we need no. Someone then said he started. Jen, you said he started saying that tonight on HVACs. It was a new thing for me to hear. Who's following teens?
Those are different things.
Oh, RBG. Who is following teen girls? If you can let me know that.
No,
But
RBG
I
was talking
will.
about people joining lives thinking that they're paid. It was or trying to be like chaos agents.
I saw that as well.
But that was a new thing I heard him say tonight on HVAC's live. That was, like I said, literally tonight. First time I've heard him really say that. I haven't talked to him about it. So, but
There are chaos agents though. Like there are like troll farms. Like
I know
it's
there was like Russian bots
yeah.
and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
for people to come up, I mean, yes, with a drop following account, it's possible. But
Yeah. No, I think it's very much happening. And you can kind of tell the ones because they'll just like do what the last guy did, which is just like a lot of what about this, and it's always the
that's
same.
a lot
Like,
of like conservatives. They don't have anything to stand on too, and they do the same thing. So I
yeah.
mean, are they dumb bots or are they just dumb?
Yeah,
On
that
top of
guy
like the
was
ones
not
like
paid.
on the panel, like I definitely think that some people who join panels are like paid by.
Or some people just
I don't know
chaos in
I don't know
general.
who they're paid by. I'm not going to be like Harry, because everyone's obsessed with talking about Harry for some reason. Like all
Guys,
these
if anyone
men
wants
are
to pay me
obsessed
to
with
say
Harry.
anything, let me know.
I find it so fascinating. It's always men that are obsessed with Harry.
I'm not obsessed with Harry. Who's obsessed with
Yeah.
Harry? Why?
Yeah, because you're not a fucking creepo weirdo that's like, oh yeah, Harry, where do you live? Who do you get paid by? Who's paying you? And then they have like whole accounts dedicated. I'm like, oh, this poor kid.
I've noticed that it's a thing though. What I don't like about the whole someone being paid is that is a because I obviously am in a lot of political lives often, and that's something when everyone on the left is supporting for. That's been their talking point for years, and I just something about it just it just bugs me to hear that anyone who comes up and that has an opposition are being paid. That's just a personal.
Oh,
I don't
I don't think everyone is, but like I definitely think that some are, and I don't know who they are. I just kind of like when you hear it sometimes, and we do know that these things are happening and that there are people being paid to do it. But yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be like a sweeping generalization because some people are just on the talking points. That's all they have. Anyway.
Yeah, yeah. I don't. No, people actually knew. Just ooh, yeah. This one was definitely really one just uncomfortable, and that the last guest just to have, like Iris said, to have the name and the username that they had and to sit up there and just be complete. I don't know what it is. I feel like this new like having a screen and to sit behind a screen has really given certain people like new superpowers and confidence. I don't know what the hell it is. But yeah, definitely screaming red flags for me. I blocked them for their own safety on my behalf because there was no way. I just don't understand it. I truly don't. But now seeing this one, definitely gonna research more into Ashley Biden, and just because this just screams child victim. But I do not have any kind of like red flag anything on Biden's behalf, but I do truly believe that she was a victim of some sort. From who? Of course, I don't know, but absolutely, I do believe that she was. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
I think they've also had like a lot of trauma, a lot of trauma in that family. People are getting hit by cars daily. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's like the Kennedys, but I think, oh, she's Jill's
She
daughter.
is. Okay,
Oh,
yeah.
okay,
I saw
cool.
you guys battling that out. Yeah,
I
I gotta
didn't
admit,
know.
one of the things that really disturbed me, and I would say this was like only in the past few years, and especially in the past 2 years, but I definitely knew it before I came on here. I started getting really, and I've talked about this before, but like I really started realizing that the women who I'd been with who were hyperschmexual, and for me, hyperschmexual in my 20s, that was like an attractive thing. That was something that turned me on. I was very sex positive. I always associated hypersexual with sex positive. And then as I went into my 30s, I started realizing this isn't sex positive. This is a trauma response. And I didn't get that until my 30s. And it really changed how I viewed the people who I'd been with previously. And I'm sure like some of them were sex positive and they, were just sex positive, but I'm sure certain other ones had it as a trauma response. And I really don't think we talk about that a lot. And I don't really know how to talk about it without not infantilizing women, but perhaps like, it's very hard to
Uh,
talk about how hypersexualization may be a response to sexual trauma without at the same time somewhat diminishing anytime you're introduced to someone who's very sex positive. And so I don't really know
um,
how to talk about it, but I feel like it's something that people should talk about more.
yeah, it should be
Absolutely.
talked
Yeah.
about, but it definitely is a response to trauma. There is literature for that, I think. But I think what you went through in your thought process, I think that's very common. I think a lot of us are just, especially like millennials, probably, we're just kind of getting down
Wow, is
and
it
like
like that?
not
Damn. No.
realizing. Yeah, well, it's like I look back and I'm like, Jesus Christ, like you were busy, and now I'm like, I want nothing to do with it. So I'm just like on the opposite side, which is
I
definitely all
lost a leg, so
trauma,
it's too
and
much work
that's
for me now. No, just
yeah, like so. I think
mhm,
there's different responses that you can have, which is like
mhm.
hyper, and then there's hypo, and it's just you're going through your 20s, you're trying to figure things out, you're having fun, and then when you get older, you start to have a bit more wisdom, and you're looking back at your life, and you're like, oh shit, was that? Like, did I?
Yeah, but I've
Yeah.
been so I've been out of the dating scene for 2 years, but
High five. Same.
I haven't getting to a point where I'd like to start dipping my toe back in. Nobody
Wow.
make a
I
Same.
joke.
feel like that was really
Nobody make
seriously.
a joke.
Damn.
No,
And
thank
Dip it
you.
in
Wow,
the
Iris.
butt.
See how it
No
is.
thanks.
That really.
however, I'm torn, but as of right now, I think my position is that I would be hesitant, if not actually just saying no to getting with someone who is hypersexual, which I don't think is the right answer, but
I think
I
it's
don't
like
think
fair
I'd
to get
feel
to know them.
comfortable. Yeah, but
Uh,
well, what I mean though, well, no, I'm talking about casual schmecks, right?
Oh yeah.
So casual schmecks, I think I would feel uncomfortable today, and I'm trying to wrap my head around it because on the flip side, it's like for some people, yes, it's a trauma response, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's harmful. Meaning, it can be something that they actually enjoy, but it could be having a genesis from something bad. But as of
Yeah.
right now, I don't think I would feel right. I can't figure out how to make it feel okay because it just feels, I don't even know
It's like you
what it
know too
is.
much now.
Um, well, it makes me feel like they're less sex positive. Do you know? It
Yeah.
makes me feel like it's less their decision to some degree. And that I don't really like.
I get that. I understand where you're coming from. Miss Julie, I'm excited because I'm on a panel with Miss Julie. Hi.
It's nice to see you on a panel, dear. Hi,
I'm the
Heather.
dog.
Hi, Jen. What's your name, dear?
Nutka.
Never knew
Just-
if I pronounced it right in my head.
Oh, just call me dog. I don't care.
No, I just wanted to say real quick, and then I'll drop down. One of the reasons that people who have been, abused, molested, traumatized, wind up being so hypersexual is you learn at a very young age that your body is the only currency you have.
Yeah.
You don't have any control over anything in your life, yet you have an inappropriate amount of power because chances are you're being manipulated with, if you don't do this, I'm going to hit your brother. If you don't do this, then all you kids are going to be taken away and you'll never see each other again. So that's your only method of control. So, I know that's not some like huge, deep revelation, but I just wanted to come up and share that.
Well, but like that's where I'm having a real problem with this is that I've not been single for a while, and so it hasn't been a decision I have to make. But at this point, if I was to be confronted with someone from a casual smack standpoint who is hypersexual, in my head now, I would ask myself after sex, are they going to go home and cry? Because previously I thought it was all sex positivity and that they were just enjoying it. They like to fuck. Now, when you're saying it's their currency, yes, it is a currency, but it's also, deflation has led that currency to make them feel worthless. And so in my head, if someone is currently hypersexual as a result of schmexual trauma, isn't there also a very strong chance that because they only view themselves as having value schmexually, every time they engage with someone schmexually, that's reinforcing that that's their only value.
Right.
And that's where I'm kind of
almost transactional.
Yeah, well, that's where I'm flipping out now. So does that mean then I should not be schmexual with someone who's hyperschmexual, at least as it pertains to a casual sex standpoint?
Like I'm supposed to know that? I've only been in therapy for 45 years.
I guess I'm struggling
Did you
with
switch to Miss Julie?
Yeah, I changed teams 2 years
Yeah.
ago.
Wait,
Same.
what team are you on now?
I'm playing in the girls' league now. Because that was another
luck.
thing. That was another thing too with like being Catholic. That I knew I was gay. I was just aggressively heterosexual. That's the only way I can think to put it. Aggressively hetero just to prove how straight I was. So
Yeah, them churches make you change.
Oh, I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah.
That's so real.
a lot of riffraff. So
What's going on with? Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, honey.
No, please, you.
No, I was just going to say I'm going to drop down. Thanks for letting me up.
Yeah, no problem at all.
All right.
you.
Does anyone else have any thoughts on it? Because I really do go back and forth on it. Because on the one hand, I think if you have schmecks with someone who suffers from hypersexuality as a trauma response, are you not re-traumatizing them, but adding to their trauma because they're feeling transactional with you?
Well,
Or, like, isn't that also infantilizing if they're a grown-ass adult, that if they're saying they want to have sex and they're hypersexual, should you really be the person making the decision for them? I go back and forth big time on it.
I think it's your own personal thing, and it's their own personal thing. If you don't feel comfortable with it, then you don't.
Yeah, but the
But the
reason
thing
why I
is
would-
like what we saw with Ashley's diary is that she's deconstructing, she's processing things, she's going through that process. So there could be somebody who's hypersexual like her, or was like some of us, who's just, yeah, they haven't, maybe they're on that journey. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but basically, like, everybody's at different points in their lives. Okay, what is up with you, Paul? Get up here, Paul. Oh, God, he says.
My
I invited you, Paul.
my compromise has always been, as long as you're abundantly transparent, that can help, like, because the whole hypersexuality thing, part of it is often they use that as a way to get intimacy. So if you're transparent with someone in the sense of saying you're not interested in a relationship, you're not interested in developing something, then they won't try to use their body as currency, and therefore they're more so making an actual decision to be with you. I don't know. If there's any other guy, oh, Paul, if there's any other guys in the comments
Real quick
who's
before
ever
Paul.
thought about this, I'd really love to hear what your thoughts are. Like, come
My
on
one
up.
question though on that is how do you, I mean, are you armchair diagnosing someone? Or how do you, I mean,
Yeah,
isn't
you don't
that
know,
trauma or is
obviously.
it something additional?
Well, honestly, only in the past couple of years, as a result of these lives, have I really thought back. So, like, I have my partners, right? The people who I dated. I know their history pretty well. I know their hyper or non-hypersexuality, right? So I'm not talking about my partners, the ones who I've dated, right? And I'm also not talking about the people who are like, have we figured out a better word than fuck buddies? Is there a nicer way of saying that nowadays?
I don't know.
Fuck
I'm old,
friends?
so.
Friends with benefits, right?
Oh.
So I'm also not talking about them because I know them as well. I'm talking exclusively about casual smash partners, right? And it's just sort of really struck me in the past couple of years. You're right. I am armchair diagnosing. I can diagnose that a large number of people I've been with are hypersexual, right? The reasons why, you're right. I don't know, but I don't
Yeah.
think it's crazy to believe a large proportion of them will be due to SA or over sexualization as children. Like, I don't think that's a crazy idea. And then I do now, you know, struggle with the morality of engaging with someone like that. I'm not like beating myself up. I'm just trying to figure out what is the appropriate moral consideration you should give to that. Because you're right, like, you shouldn't be making decisions for other people.
Yeah, and also just being like, I don't think you're ready for this. Yeah. Which would be such a crazy thing to say to somebody. But yeah, like, ultimately, we're all adults here.
Well, in
They
some
can
ways, I
make
could
their,
almost see it in a way being kind of like a slut shaming in some ways. I'm not saying it is, but it could
yeah.
be.
Yeah.
That's
I think,
interesting.
like,
So
we
many of the
are
women are
all,
saying it's overthinking it, but like, don't you all also recognize that if a woman has been hypersexualized as a result of SA when they were younger, you all must agree that her being used for sex is actively harming her. And if
But
that's
that's
the
assuming
case,
she was harmed.
yeah.
no, I understand that. What I'm saying is, forget about guessing if the person in front of me has been harmed. Let's take a person who has been hypersexualized as a result of SA when they were younger, right? I think we all agree that
Essay at
every
any
time
point,
that
by the
person,
way.
sorry,
It could be like essay at any point where you can
no,
have a
no, no,
response. Yeah.
that's true. That's true. From what I've read, I understand that it tends to be before the age of 25, but at least that's what I've read. So let's say someone who has been hypersexualized as a result of SA. Um, do we agree that that person, if they're engaging due to hypersexualization, which has now led them to believe that's all they can offer to a person, do we agree that someone having sex with that person is harmful to that person? I think that's a yes, right?
No,
Because then,
not always.
okay,
Because,
so
like,
I
you
would have said
don't know everybody's, like, story, and unless
no.
you're gonna
I
take the
do know
time
this
during a
person's story.
casual
No,
date to,
no,
like,
no, but
find that out.
Nutka, sorry, you're jumping to the next step, right? The next step you're jumping to is the obligation to figure out, is that person such a person? But let's just talk about this person that does exist. Let's call her Sarah. There's a Sarah out there who got hypersexualized as a result of SA. That Sarah now seeks sex as a soothing mechanism or a way for her to feel good for a short amount of time, but ultimately we know, tell me if I'm wrong, in this scenario, I think it's a fair assumption that some women, after they have sex, even though it gives them a immediate sense of empowerment, afterwards they actually feel worse for it, right?
I think you're
Now,
infantilizing a little bit with that.
Yeah.
It's and
well, I'm
Miss
not
Julie, be
infantilizing because
careful.
I'm
Miss
saying
Julie says, "Don't make me come back up here. You're gonna get in trouble with Miss Julie, and
but
you
do
don't
we,
want
Oh
that."
but do we disagree
no.
to, but do
You're
we disagree
fucked.
that those women exist? The ones I just described?
Sure. I just think. Sorry, what was Jen's last point? I lost my train of thought.
My last point was like, you don't want to get Miss Julie mad. That's all. That's all.
Oh, well, I
That was
meant
my point.
before that, but I
I'll
want to
I
hear
just
from Miss
feisty.
Julie.
I was saying it's kind of infantilizing. It's that whole thing. If women do it too much, then there's got it's associated with some kind of trauma or whatever.
No,
Versus
no, but Jen, you're jumping to the second step. I'm only talking about the first step. The first step is there is a woman named Sarah. She has been hypersexualized as a result of SA, and every time she engages with a guy, she is being harmed because it's reinforcing all she is as a sexual object. That's a
sure,
real
Well,
Sarah.
person,
Sure,
right?
Sarah
Well,
exists.
well, sorry. Let
then
me
you
just finish. Let me
can't.
just finish. Let me finish. Let me finish. Let me finish.
But
Okay.
you're
Let me
so
finish.
wrong, Irish. You are
If we
so
agree, well, that's only because I keep getting interrupted. If we agree
no, you're
Sarahs
just
exist,
wrong.
the question I have
Pivot.
is, do men or women have any obligation to identify those Sarahs before they engage? That's the
No.
part that's important.
I think that'd be difficult to do because that requires a medical. You can't armchair diagnose this if you don't have that experience. So
Yeah.
It,
I also
it's
think.
also sorry.
Go ahead,
Go ahead,
Bank.
Banksy.
I was just gonna say it's also not your job to sit there and stipulate what people can and can't do or what they are and aren't capable of. Like if people want to fuck, they want to fuck. If you're in a casual relationship or a situationship, as Julie called it, or anything else, it's up to them to know what their boundaries are, and you're worrying way too much about someone's, I guess, mental health and well-being if you're not wanting to be in a relationship with them.
So I disagree with you on that to
Can
some
I make
degree.
my
Sure, go
point
ahead,
first?
Nutska, and then I'll respond. Sure.
Hold on, this is in my mind.
I
And then Julie. Go ahead, Nutska.
Yes, I think that. Oh my God, I keep losing my train of thought, but then as soon as somebody else talks, I get it. God damn.
grab a
Oh
pen,
yeah,
write it
so I
down.
think like what you're concerned about is valid, and yes, there are people out there like that, but then the onus would be on you to take proper care and to make sure that you're getting enthusiastic consent and that there's maybe like some form of aftercare where you leave them better than you found them, essentially. And if they never talk to you again and like avoid you, then I guess maybe that answers your question, but it's still not like on you.
Okay, so the reason why this idea of someone who just said like the autonomous decision making is important, I disagree with that. I know in some areas for damn sure. So I've talked about the fact that I've helped a number of people report their SA. A couple of those women have actively flirted with me after the fact, and I've just declined to engage because I thought that would be abusive. I assumed without knowing that me helping them out would have created some sort of bond between me and them, and that they were more interested in me because I helped them out. And so I just drew like a firm line in the sand and said, you know what? I just don't know. I don't need to go there whatsoever, right? And I think that's an appropriate decision. And if that's an appropriate decision, why can't that be applied more generally? Why wouldn't I have an obligation to consider like this idea that let people do what they want? No, we don't believe that as a society. We believe people can be taken advantage of. We believe that people can be abused and exploited. And so you guys saying just let the person decide, no, letting the person decide also allows you to exploit people left, right, and center. And so I think there has to be some balance between the two.
But how dare you take agency from someone else? Who are you, Irish? that you're going to take someone else's agency and their ability to make their own decisions and to be able to choose what they want to do with their life, with their body, with their feelings. Who are you?
Well, I'm the person who's also got agency. And so, in that sense,
Right.
I'm not
And if
taking
you
their
don't want to
agency
sleep with
as much
somebody,
as,
don't sleep with them.
yeah, because I'm exercising my agency, that if I believe it's exploitive, that I don't think I want to engage in that relationship.
Are you
That's not
talking
me
about
negating their
casual
agency.
sex or relationships? Which are you talking about?
Either or.
I think it's reasonable if you feel like it's being exploitative for you personally, to not engage. I think that's more than reasonable. What I think is an issue or not, the blur line for me is diagnosing that someone has some trauma or that they're engaging in whatever behavior because they have XYZ prior experience. I think it's reasonable for that person, you in this example, making that decision. But I think to armchair say that for everybody, everyone has that responsibility. I don't think is reasonable.
That's what we're having issue with, is the fact that automatically someone has trauma, they must be in the sort of too hard basket, even though you're not looking for a long-term commitment or anything else. It's like, I think quite a lot of victims do go through that, trauma sex stage and all the rest of it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we're only wanting to sleep with people because of that reason, or to follow through with harming ourselves. Like, the way it's coming across is like you're saying that you know better than we do on how we're handling things, when that may not be the case at all.
Well, so go to the examples I did give, Banksy, right? So those couple of
Mm.
women who did flirt with me after I helped them report their SA, I think what I did was appropriate. And I took away their agency. Do you disagree with that decision?
It's a hard one on specific circumstances, because there are certain ways that people will see that act that you did of being helpful and all the rest of it that will make them have an attachment to you regardless of whether they've been through trauma or not.
I think it's reasonable for that situation to make that decision. Like I said, for you personally, I think that is your decision, which I think is more than fine. If you don't want to sleep with someone, you don't have to, obviously.
Yeah, but I'm taking away the agency.
No, you made a
But I-
decision for yourself because
Yes.
it made you feel uncomfortable, which is totally
Sorry, I'm
1000% valid.
And
No,
what
but
you said is, don't you think that people have a responsibility to follow suit similar to what you do? Is what I've heard you, the way I took it.
No. The responsibility part I'm talking about is, do we have a responsibility? There's different ways of looking at the responsibility. The first responsibility is if you know there's potential exploitation, but the person's saying yes. Do you have a responsibility to say no? So, for example, the women who I helped with their SA, I say no to because I think, you know what, that could be potentially exploitive. And so that just seems like I would have a responsibility to say no. Then, like, the next level is, you know, if it's not as clear cut, what if it's a situation where a woman comes to you and says she has been hypersexualized and men have only ever used her as sexual currency? Someone who said that to me, I would feel uncomfortable being with, because I would feel like I'm feeding into that feeling that they have. They've told me, I'm not guessing for them, they've told me men only view them as a vehicle or vessel for sex. I would feel uncomfortable being with that person at that point, unless I was to like love them and change that paradigm for them.
I think you also are assuming that everyone has that same level of knowledge and understanding of what all this means.
No, I'm not. That's why I'm breaking it down into different steps. So, like for some women, for example, you've got the subgroup of women who have helped. That's one subgroup. Then
I'm
you have
talking
the
about
subgroup-
people in general. I'm talking about people's responsibility in general, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's what I've been trying to say. That as a person who was a victim for many years, it's up to me if I'm going to heal. It's up to me if I'm going to go to therapy. It's up to me if I'm going to change myself. Now, the amount of people I've slept with is well into the 3 digits, and I don't say that to say anything except I didn't even realize why I was doing it. I had no idea. So all I'm saying is people have their own responsibility for themselves. And I apologize for being so bitchy. I haven't eaten in about 8 hours and I am hangry as hell.
Get
So
a
I'm
snack.
sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt you, Brussels sprouts?
No, I was just saying get a snack.
Well, I took my insulin, so at some point I'm going to have to. But, people are going to make their own choices. And if you're not comfortable with the dynamic, Irish, then don't sleep with them because this is about you and your consent as well. And if you feel uncomfortable giving your consent in a certain situation, then you owe it to yourself not to give your consent. But recognize on the other person's part, they may not want to change. They may not see that they need a change. They may not see they need therapy. They may not even realize what they're doing. It didn't occur to me until I was in my 30s and I wrote down a list of what changed in my life as a result of what happened to me. And a big thing was that my body was the only currency. I thought that I was only worthwhile if I did what other people wanted me to. I learned that I had to do what other people wanted me to, or something bad was going to happen. I mean, and I didn't realize that until I was much older. I'm 56 now, but, just to say, if you're not comfortable, Irish, you're not comfortable.
It's not about my comfort. What I'm talking about is what is the ethical, moral responsibility and obligation of a person um, before they engage with having sex with someone, when it pertains to the fact that that person that they're talking to may be engaging in sex for unhealthy reasons. And I know you guys are all saying, just listen to the person, just listen to the person, just listen to the person. I rebuke that. I think that, you can certainly say, Irish, you can never know, and that's totally fair.
Well, that's the thing. You
Um,
can't know. You can only have your intuition, and that's what you have to go on. But there's a difference between if you're hitting it with a random person in the Wendy's bathroom, not saying I know anything about that, or if you're actually going on a date and you like and have interest in this person. It's a situational ethics, which I think is a load of crap. But in this situation, yeah.
yeah, but let me rephrase
I think
it.
this would be, for example, this would be for someone who, like someone else we know who is a mandated reporter and knows that certain things shouldn't happen and have that education for those particular circumstances. Yes, there is that kind of, I could see that be reasonable, of being aware and making different decisions. But the average person, I think for me, that's where the disconnect is some people who are educated on that information, sure, but not everybody has that same level of knowledge.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is not something I would judge, and let's just make it a male female dynamic just to make it easy. We're talking about. I wouldn't judge guys who don't think about it, right? I didn't think about it, for God's sake. But as you get more informed as to why people do it, and I guess I just kind of have heard so many women talk about how used they were, especially when they were younger, um, in their 20s, and
That's being a
how
girl. That's being a woman.
I know, but maybe guys should have a moral or ethical obligation to rethink that a bit. Like, and an example of that is when I've had women like throw themselves at me in an unusually eager, very quick way. I've always assumed this is not healthy. And I've usually just said no in that case. And so I feel as though like you're talking about the fact that sometimes you'll know, sometimes you'll be guessing, sometimes it's paternalistic. I get all of that. But if you have a gut instinct that a woman who you're about to get with is doing it because of the fact that they feel this is how they're going to feel a little bit powerful, but you know they're going to cry the next day, why shouldn't you have a moral obligation not to engage if that's what your gut instinct is telling you? Not for
Well,
your comfort,
but we all know
but because
morals
you
are
don't want to create
subjective.
harm.
Morals
I
are
think
subjective.
so. I think that there's a delicate line to walk, right? Because I think even like if you're having consensual smacks and you're making that decision for yourself and you think it's autonomous in the moment, there is always like when you're acting or doing something when it comes from like a place of trauma, there's always the chance that you could regret it. And while that might not be an unconsensual experience, it's still not an experience that anyone should have. That's why I think that communication is important. And you might like not everyone's going to be aware of that um in the moment, but I think having that conversation is still important.
Do I have an echo? Or am I good?
I think you're okay.
You're
Okay.
fine.
So I was going to say, I think that there's like the source of the pushback here is that, like, for example, Hypocrites Live, his co host, Corey, has said that he refuses to date any woman who has trauma.
Oh, and
They,
that's not what I'm saying at all.
Ha, single
but,
forever.
Oh, is that
but
what
like,
everyone's hearing me say?
there's like a fine line there, right? So like I think in the situation with the victim and reporting, I think that would be unethical. But I think you have to be careful to not indicate like Cigar Boss had a background today, something about broken women. Like, do men have an obligation to broken women or something like that?
What did he mean by that?
I don't know. I can't remember the background exactly, but I was just like, well, then stop breaking them. And I just scrolled.
Can I ask you something, Irish?
Yeah, shoot.
And before I ask it, just because I know Jen and Nutka, and I think they both know that I wouldn't say anything intentionally to like be unkind but I just want to ask you an honest question
Yeah, shoot.
because this seems, and I realize I've only been in here for like 25 minutes now, but this seems really self-indulgent. Where is this coming from?
Self-indulgent in what way?
That this is such a that like this is what there's 3, 4, 5, 6 of us up here talking to you about, which discussion is great, and I never get in the box anymore, but this interested me. But it does seem really indulgent, like you're making this about you, and you don't think you should do this and you should do that. I don't know, it just seems like you're
Yeah, I
looking
mean,
for some sort of permission, maybe.
yeah, no, I'm not looking at it from my individual perspective alone. I'm looking at just the morality of it, generally speaking. So
Oh, okay.
this, yeah, this
We
isn't.
were talking. It
This
There's
came in
isn't
kind
what
of
am
talking
I?
about
there's
Ashley
always
Biden's
room
diary.
Yeah, this
there's
isn't.
always room for me to misunderstand.
Yeah,
That's why
this
I
isn't.
ask these questions,
Yeah,
not
this
to be
isn't.
rude.
Yeah, this isn't what am I allowed to do. That's not what the purpose of this is. What the purpose of it is that spending the past 2 years talking about grape culture has just, made me aware of things or shined a greater light on things that I wasn't as well aware of. And one of them is the fact that I think RBG brought up a good point that there may be some misunderstanding here that I'm saying people who have been essayed are broken or something. That's not what I'm talking about at all, right? What I do think is that there are some people who have been essayed who then can go into a hypersexuality phase, and that I'm asking the question: is indulging in that hypersexuality phase? Is a man indulging in that hypersexuality phase of a woman who is hypersexual as a result of trauma? Is there any ethical considerations that should be thought about? That's what I'm asking the question of.
I would say yes. Did you say yes? Sorry. Can someone explain to me what Irish said that people disagree with?
Yeah, I'm a
I
little
don't.
confused as well, like in the sense that
It just was, I think, like, yeah, I mean,
Phrasing?
there's a million different
I
ways.
think my thing with it, and I'll explain how I so the education around, like you said, lives on great culture for the last couple of years, and hearing about different trauma. I think what most people who don't typically associate in these spaces and have this knowledge to make a moral determination of how, number one, how people can identify someone else's trauma, and number two, uh, that everyone has that same level of education. That's my thing that I'm hearing, that I think is problematic, to say that everyone should know about this and have that understanding,
I
and
and I'm
is what
not
So
I'm
saying
what I
hearing.
that.
would say is I do think that everyone should have an understanding of like sexual violence and the way that it affects people. It's a really pervasive issue and like it needs to be spoken about more. It should be something that is like communicated in relationships. But I don't think I disagreed with what Irish said. I just think that like that communication would be necessary. Like not to be like anecdotal, but like myself, like people talk about like CNC and stuff. Let's just you okay. Not to air my business out in front of 71 people, but like when I was assaulted, part of the way that like I kind of reclaimed autonomy was engaging in that, but it was like not to reclaim autonomy as much as it was to just dissociate through discomfort because I was being abused. And if I had have had that conversation or like talked about it more in depth with someone, I think that that may have clicked earlier because like reflecting on it, I feel really gross and disgusted and regret a lot of that, but I wouldn't call it like assault. So it's like a difficult field to navigate. And I do think it's like part of a discussion that needs to happen and like be reflected on ethically. I don't know if that made sense.
I
So
think
maybe a clarifying question for me is, in this example, is it when you have knowledge that someone, um, I mean, this is hyper specific, that has had that level of trauma before. I mean, I think there's
loads.
twofold: that you're aware of the trauma, number one, specifically, and that you have this education. If you have both, yes, I think morally someone should not engage. I can agree with that.
Well, let's break it down, right? The education part becomes important later on. If we agree there are moral considerations, then I think we would all agree we need to better educate people about this, right? So the education part is something we will just assume for now, right? I'm not going to judge a guy who doesn't have the education who acts like this, right? So I really view it more so as, do you have an ethical obligation to give a shit? And if so, then the next question is sort of where you're going. Do you have an ethical obligation to somewhat inquire? And then the ethical question is if you then learn, not simply that they've been essayed, because it's not about just essay, but that they're engaging with you in that moment as a result of their hypersexuality, as a result of their essay, in a way that could be unhealthy for them. Personally, I've always just not engaged, not because of my personal comfort, but because it felt exploitive. And I agree that you are being patronizing in making that decision for a person. But I guess the question is shouldn't you care about that decision? Whether you're right or wrong, shouldn't you care as to whether or not if you're about to engage with this person is going to be harmful to them?
I don't really think what you're saying here is like that absurd, though. Like if you put it that way, because there are drunk women that may want to have sex with you. You may not feel like they're in a position to have sex with you, even though they want to. You're allowed to say no because you feel that's wrong, or because that is wrong. Rather, that's how I should phrase it. I don't really see how that's
That's
any
what
different.
we've been saying, but or that's what I was saying. I'm just like, if you're not comfortable, if you get this feeling that this may leave them worse off somehow,
Those are two
then
different things, Anutka.
do,
I need to cut you off because those are two very different things. I'm not engaging for my comfort. I'm not engaging to protect me. I've specifically chosen not to engage with certain people because I'm protecting them. And I understand that will, yeah, and this is why I'm having this
I
conversation,
get
because
that, yeah.
like I
But it's
understand
also
that's
like you
patronizing. I
can't.
get that.
It just, I get that, but sorry, the other point I wanted to make, and I'm going to drop after this, is
Oh yeah.
just we've talked about consent before, obviously, and like the Fry's model. And I think if you're communicating effectively with this person, even though it may be casual, then you can both like self-assess, assess each other, and see if the vibe is like good or not. And like beyond that, there's not much you can do for how they feel the next day. But if you've taken all the right and like necessary steps, I don't know. Yeah, I'm gonna drop because I have to shower, but
Of course you have to go into the water.
I do. It's so freaking hot here.
I'm
Not a bath.
surprised you've been out of it for so long.
No, not a bath. No, not a bath today, guys. I'm having a shower. I'm a big girl now. We read Ashley Biden's diary, and I was like, I have a feeling it's a good day for a shower. So,
All
so
right,
yeah.
go shower.
Derailing. It's my 4th day driving alone by myself. Did I hit the garage on day 2? I don't know, but I have started going to Target involuntarily. I didn't buy anything.
I mean, if you're driving on a long trip, I feel like that's just a necessary stopover every day. So you're forgiven. I do think to like lean into Jen's reaction. Jen, I think it's possible to agree with what I'm saying and what Brussels may be agreeing with, which is that you should care. And the pushback may be, yes, you should care. However, by caring, you being patronizing may actually have more harm. I think that's a fair pushback.
So I was half listening. I mean, what do you mean patronizing? What do you mean? Clarify real fast.
It's patronizing for someone to make a decision on behalf of someone else. I think that's patronizing.
I think what I said earlier. I don't think you're making a decision on behalf of someone else. You're making that decision that's something you don't want to engage in. I don't think you're making a decision for yourself. That's how
Yeah, but it's based purely upon the harm that would be to the other person, though.
I mean, that's your assessment. I mean, the only other thing that this is you're assuming what harm. I'm going back to you're making a diagnosis for something that you're not.
I think the principle here that you'd be operating off of would not be like assuming harm rather than just taking a stance of harm reduction.
Right. And I mean, I could also see it as you making that decision. You're reducing harm for yourself because that it wouldn't be good for. I think it's reasonable in both ways. I mean, should you engage with someone if you know it's not good? I think it's more making the right. It's a moral decision for you that you're not going to be a crappy person to take advantage of someone else who's got that level of, trauma. I think that's morally. Are you a crappy person if you're doing that and you know that they have that issue? Yeah, you're probably a crappy person if you do that. I think so. What I'm kind of deferring it back to is if you're that person, you make that decision to take advantage of someone else, knowing that you're a shitty person.
Yeah, but I think that's the tricky part is how do you know it if they're not claiming it? And I think that's where someone just said it really well. Where was it? You have your camera on, right, Brussels? Where the hell was it? Someone put it so goddamn well. Bug. It's noble what you're theorizing. Just walk the line carefully to not infantilize or assume. And so I think that's where I think the conclusion probably goes, is that I think there should be moral consideration that a person has, that they should care if the person they're engaging with may be engaging in it for the wrong reasons, but that it is an incredibly fine line between you acting on behalf to protect someone versus you infantilizing a person. And it seems like overwhelmingly, the women in here, minus Brussels, are on the line of don't infantilize, just trust the woman. And some of them may be wrong, but it's better to trust the women because the majority of them will be honest or truthful in it. So, I think you guys are suggesting err on the side of not infantilizing.
Yeah, because you don't usually hear about this in the inverse. You don't. I mean, if this is a specific issue that's aimed at if a woman is being sexual. So you don't typically hear this if it's a man. So it's that whole infantilization that we as women can't make that decision for ourselves.
Yeah, and I think that's true because for a guy, to the extent a guy is hypersexualized as a result of SA, they probably don't have the same harm done to them in the sense that when a man's body count increases, they're not being devalued the same way a woman is. And so that's why I think it is probably fair to make it a male-female dynamic, because I think you're right. It does largely apply to women. Paul, not to derail, but let's derail. Why do you hate me and why do you watch me?
Well, I think you're a bit of an extremist. For example, I think you support males in women's sports.
Wait, is this Paulie the racist?
Ooh, Brussels likes this topic.
Is this Paulie the racist?
This is Paulie the not racist.
Paulie, do you understand how stupid? Like you're clinically stupid. Like you're next level stupid. You don't have what it takes to
Would you like to
debate
speak for
any
yourself?
topic. What topic do you think you could debate?
So here's the thing, guys.
What
I was on a
topic
live
do you think you could debate
3 or 4 weeks
intelligently?
ago.
Hey, wait,
And
Polly.
hang on. I'm
Hang
trying.
on,
I'm not playing. I promise.
Oh, Polly, I
Paulie, I'm
remember you.
asking
Yeah,
you.
you are the racist.
I don't
Paulie,
like
I'm
the
asking.
How am I
guys.
racist?
Hang on, everyone, stop.
Let's hear from the extremist here. How am I racist?
Paulie, my question for you is: what topic do you think you're equipped to debate intelligently?
How about the fact that I'm not racist? How about the fact that you think? How about the fact that you think someone who doesn't find a particular race attractive is racist? How about that fact?
Sure, you said that black women's vaginas are oversized and too
You
big,
reference their body parts
right?
specifically.
Oh, fuck.
Right, Paulie?
Yeah, as a joke, but you called it racist before that, Irish. Come on, Irish.
Yeah, that's Spidey sense.
Anyway,
Obvious at this point.
so I had a live with.
Sorry, what part was
Hang
the
on.
joke?
I had a live with Good Trouble a few weeks ago. About wokeism and my intolerance for that.
Did you know wokeism stems from like black culture, right? So you're not
You're talking
really
to the wrong
driving
person,
home.
but I appreciate you cutting me off. Anyway, so I had a live about why Snow White should be white, blah blah blah. This is right after a live I had with Irish, who claimed like fucking Regina George. Let's stop.
Oh, you had a different
Let's
account
stop.
where you were so upset that Snow
Holy
White might
shit.
be a different race.
Holy shit!
You, no,
I'm landing my
holy
plane
shit!
here.
You were upset.
I am
that
landing my
people
plane
being a
here.
white separate. Dude, you have been
Woman,
skating down the
respect
runway
the
for
man talking.
Everyone
little boy.
stop.
What?
Everyone stop.
Oh,
My
that's
live
not
just got flagged. Hang on. My live just got flagged. Guys,
I'm sorry.
I'm going to ask you right now, do not report. I'm going to ask you again, do not report. I'm going to ask everyone not to yell, and I'm going to ask everyone not to use any words that can get it bananaed, because I'm just after getting a violation. I don't want to have to go to my other account. So if y'all can F1 in the comments or something, or start liking the live or something, but can we all just have a conversation? Jen, you were saying, go ahead. Paulie, don't overtalk people, and I won't let them overtalk you.
Yeah, no, he was upset
Respect.
that Snow White may not have a be completely Caucasian. And he went on for hours just about her skin tone because her name says white in the title. It's, I mean, just, it's ridiculous.
About whose
Other than
skin
that,
tone, Jen?
Jen, her
Wait,
skin
hang on,
color is
Paulie.
described.
Paulie,
Sorry, go ahead.
I'm asking Jen. Jen, who was he talking about? Whose skin color?
he's talking about the character Snow White. I guess Snow White is doing a live action remake, and the
Yeah.
woman who is going to be playing the character is Latino. And I'm not 100% on that, but she's not my fair skin. And so he was being explained to that other people could be considered white, and depending on what country and things, how race has fluctuated over time and generations. And he was pissed because Snow White may not have the fairest of skin colors.
Incorrect, actually. So Jen, I'm pissed about this whole woke culture in Hollywood, and I'll explain what that means. But
I know what it means. I was listening. I was
hang
there
on,
that
Jen.
live.
Jen, you're cutting me off now. You're cutting me off. So what I mean by that is I use Snow White as an example. This sort of like overly politically correct shit in Hollywood is it doesn't make any sense when you want to change a person's skin color who was described as white as snow. There's two words, by the way, not just white. Snow white. Her skin color was described as white as snow. She probably should be white. It's a real brainer, isn't it?
Paulie, I'll be problematic and I'll say I don't understand why they would make Snow White a person of color as well. I'll agree with you on that. What I don't understand is I wouldn't care in the sense that I agree with you. To me, it intuitively makes sense that Snow White should be a Snow White woman, right? So I agree with you, right? The difference is I don't care, and more than anything, if they're making it a person of color, it's not hurting me. And if anything, it will probably introduce the character to new generations and new people that ordinarily wouldn't connect with the character. And so while I probably wouldn't connect with it, or I wouldn't really, care about that film, or I don't know, I just wouldn't connect with it, I guess. I don't understand why it hurts me or why I would spend 2 minutes complaining about it. That's what I don't understand.
So that's why I brought up, like, this is one example of the woke, like, in other words, like, if this woke culture didn't exist, I wouldn't care about Snow White. Honestly, if it was made perfectly, I probably wouldn't go see
So
it anyway.
Snow White is the hill you're dying on.
No, it's an example. It's one example where people kind of go nuts over, which is why I host lives on it. But honestly, like, if they made Hercules black like they're trying to do, it would be an issue. If they made the Incredible Hulk.
Wait, hang on, Paulie. Is that the person of color you're talking about?
Yeah.
All right, you're gonna have to explain that one to me, buddy.
Wait,
she's
Rachel?
Colombian.
She's what?
Hate to break it to you, buddy. She's Colombian.
Wait, so
Colombian. What? Hang on. Sorry, just one moment. Colombians come from where, Paulie?
South America.
Great. And South Americans are a mixture of what two groups predominantly, or three groups predominantly?
Define groups. You mean races?
Sure. Indigenous people to that area, right? And then Portuguese, and then Spaniards, and then a small group of Nazis who snuck in 1945, right? That's South America, right? And so looking at her and looking at her last name, would you believe that she's indigenous to the area or she is European?
Irish, are you implying that she's white?
Can you answer my question, Paul?
Ask it one more time, because I'm I'm fucking furious right now. Go ahead.
Sure. Are you under the impression that she's indigenous, or are you under the impression that she's European? Her nationality.
I'm under the impression that I don't care what her race is. She's not as pale as snow.